Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm really excited to bring you today's video. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's get started. In 2028, the world was focused on major space missions aimed at bringing humanity to Mars. NASA and SpaceX had begun the countdown for the first crewed Mars mission. The European Space Agency was accelerating its exploration of Jupiter's moons. However, while all eyes were on Mars, China was focused on a very different target, the far side of the moon. The China National Space Administration, CNSA, had been conducting extensive research on the moon through its long-running Chang'e missions. However, a secret project launched in 2025 was part of a much larger and more strategic move that could not be explained by scientific research alone. According to official statements, the new Chinese lunar base, built on the far side of the moon, was set up for scientists to conduct experiments in the low-gravity environment. The Chinese government claimed that this base was the first step toward human missions to the moon, with the aim of evolving into a sustainable colony in the future. However, Western intelligence agencies quickly realized that there was a much bigger reality behind these claims. China was not only conducting scientific experiments on the moon's surface. Satellite images showed a massive and complex structure rising next to the lunar base. Moreover, this structure appeared to be much larger and more sophisticated than a simple research center. The U.S. Department of Defense's intelligence centers had detected abnormal energy waves periodically emanating from the moon's surface. These electromagnetic fluctuations were unlike anything seen in previous lunar missions. No such energy activity had been observed during NASA's past moon missions. This raised the possibility that China might be working on an unknown energy source. According to classified reports presented to the Pentagon, these energy waves had caused temporary disruptions in American satellites orbiting Earth. Initially, this was thought to be a coincidence. However, as analyses deepened, it became clear that these signals were being emitted at regular intervals and at a specific frequency. This was unacceptable to the Pentagon. If China really had control over an unknown energy source on the moon, it could shift the balance of power in space and potentially make China the ultimate superpower. The intelligence gathered by the U.S. led to urgent meetings at the White House. The President, the Secretary of Defense, the heads of the CIA and NSA, and senior NASA officials gathered in a secret session. At the start of the meeting, the CIA director presented images of the suspicious activities on the moon. The images showed a massive structure rising about 10 kilometers from China's lunar base. Furthermore, this structure appeared to be surrounded by vast underground tunnels. A Pentagon official then made the following statement. As far as we know, China claims to have established this base for scientific research. But the satellite images we have and the electromagnetic wave analysis paint a very different picture. If China really has developed an independent energy source on the moon, this goes beyond a space race issue. It is a strategic threat that will change the balance of power on Earth. A cold silence fell over the room at the White House. No one could fully grasp the magnitude of this threat, but everyone understood that if China had indeed discovered a new energy source on the moon, it could change the global power dynamics forever. As the meeting continued, an expert from the NSA checked the latest data that had appeared on the screen. A significant new detail had emerged regarding China's lunar base. According to our latest analysis, China's base on the moon is not just a scientific center, it also appears to function as an energy transmission hub. We didn't notice this earlier because the system is very sophisticatedly hidden, but from the recent electromagnetic wave data, we can see that this base is generating large amounts of energy and somehow directing it. At that moment, there was a flurry of activity in the meeting room. The Secretary of Defense wanted to know what this information meant. The NSA expert continued. If this base really has a large energy source and can direct it, it raises two possibilities. First, China may have developed an independent and limitless energy source on the moon. The second, more dangerous possibility, is that they could use this energy to affect communication and defense systems on Earth. If the second possibility is true, this is no longer just a space exploration issue. It is a direct international security threat. These statements created worried expressions on the faces of Pentagon officials. It was now clear that China was not just building a base on the moon, but also actively using this base as a power center. Although the U.S. had no concrete evidence, it was obvious that China was on the verge of gaining significant superiority in space. As a result of the meeting at the White House, a decision was made to gather more intelligence about China's lunar base. The Secretary of Defense turned to the CIA director and ordered a covert operation to be launched. If China is indeed developing an unknown power source on the moon, we need to find out. And if this poses a threat to America's future, we must be ready to respond. As the meeting ended, plans for a new space operation were being developed deep within the Pentagon's corridors. However, no one knew just how advanced China's true plans on the moon were, and there was little time left to find out. The year 2029 was a period marked by a global silence. China's activities on the moon and the secrets behind them had shaken the thoughts of governments in the West. Americans had first noticed signs of Beijing's secret space projects in late 2028. However, as months passed, the meaning of these signals deepened and was putting America on high alert. One day in a secure room at the White House in Washington, all attention was focused on a screen. Reports from the U.S. Department of Defense indicated that the electromagnetic waves emanating from China's lunar base were at an unprecedented intensity. These waves had the potential to damage technological systems on Earth. "This is not just a communications issue," said a Pentagon official. "This could be a strategic move. There is a purpose behind these signals coming from the moon." A group of scientists, after months of work, concluded that these signals were pointing to a very specific source. Their studies confirmed that the signals were emanating from an energy source at China's lunar base. But this energy source was not just a power source. As days passed, the analysis revealed that the electromagnetic waves contained within this source could be part of a device aimed at targeting communication infrastructures on Earth. NASA engineers detected that these signals were emanating from the moon to Earth and were operating at very specific frequencies. Satellite signals were creating strange interruptions and distortions, particularly in GPS and other communication systems. These systems, critical for military operations, were becoming increasingly weakened by the interference from China's lunar base. Disruptions in various military satellites and errors that affected the accuracy of GPS signals worldwide were creating a potential threat for the entire planet. The CIA began to assess the situation with the utmost seriousness. Various reports indicated that this technology developed by China was threatening America's global military and economic dominance. Pentagon intelligence services realized that the secret system China had placed on the moon's base was not just for military purposes. This device had the power to take control of all satellite systems on Earth, which would solidify China's control on a global scale, allowing them to manipulate all communication networks. In a secret meeting in Washington, the president gathered all senior military officials and advisors to begin formulating an urgent strategy. Experts in space and space technology emphasized that these new developments posed a serious threat to global security. These signals were not just a threat, but also seen as a warning. The president's face was serious and thoughtful. If China has taken this technology to the point where it can control all communication systems on Earth, this is now a threat of war. The war will not just be technological, but a strategic and global struggle. Absolutely. This will affect not just space, but every military and economic structure on Earth, added the CIA director. If China fully deploys this technology, the balance of the world may change. Experts predicted that this technology could be used to solidify China's global dominance. This new form of electronic warfare would extend beyond traditional warfare, transforming into a powerful force in digital and electromagnetic domains. With this superiority in space, China could paralyze almost all global systems, thus securing absolute power for itself. In the meeting at the White House, final decisions began to be made. America was now faced with two options in response to this threat. First, to ignore China's lunar project and strengthen national defense systems. Second, to sabotage China's technology and prevent its global use. The U.S. government decided to consider the second option. The next step would be to gather all the information about China's lunar base and, if necessary, plan an operation against it. However, this process had become extremely dangerous due to Beijing's defensive measures and security precautions. Instead of publicly declaring this situation, the White House chose to initiate a covert intervention plan. Under the influence of international threats, U.S. intelligence began to closely examine the dangers posed by this new digital war in space. The world now had to take action to break China's power in space. As the world rapidly approached 2030, China's activities on the moon and the true purpose behind these activities were still not fully understood. Initial observations of the moon were based only on surface-level data, and the entire world believed that China's moon project was purely a scientific research mission. However, the satellite images and electromagnetic wave analyses obtained by the Pentagon had revealed a much deeper secret. Americans could no longer ignore their suspicions about the known data on China's lunar base. From the outside, the base appeared to be a scientific research center. However, in reality, China was building a silent power in space, a power aimed at establishing global control, not just regional dominance. China's official statements about the base initially claimed it was purely for scientific purposes. However, it was becoming increasingly clear that there was a much bigger goal at the heart of these projects. The U.S. sped up its efforts to gather intelligence on China's lunar base. Satellite images and electromagnetic analyses provided a series of clues about the true objective behind China's activities. However, just as suspicions were reaching their peak, Americans received information from an unexpected source. The CIA received a report about a scientist seeking asylum. This unnamed scientist had worked at one of China's space research centers and was providing critical information about China's lunar base. Brought to the U.S. through a covert operation, this scientist bypassed security protocols and communicated directly with the highest-level American officials. The scientist shared information that many could not have even imagined. China's lunar base is not just a scientific research center, said the scientist, with a trembling tone of concern in his voice. The real goal is to have the power to control all technological infrastructures on Earth. The CIA director realized how shocking this statement was. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Are you saying the base is for military purposes only?" The scientist took a deep breath and, keeping his eyes lowered, continued. "Yes. China, with the massive energy reactor it has placed on the moon, has developed a technology that can use electromagnetic waves to control all satellite systems on Earth. This reactor, by processing the natural resources found on the moon's surface, provides nearly unlimited energy. This energy not only gives China superiority in space, but it also gives them the capacity to interfere with all military and civilian satellite systems on Earth." U.S. officials immediately began to scrutinize all the data more carefully after this revelation. This new information showed that China's lunar project had evolved into something much more complex and dangerous. China's goal was far more than just setting up a base on the moon. This base had the potential to manipulate and even disable communication networks on Earth. The reactor was not only producing energy, it was also creating powerful electromagnetic effects on Earth's satellite systems. Once China completed this technology, the world's GPS, communication satellites, and even military systems could be entirely under China's control. This would mean strategic dominance on a global scale, and a country with this technology could upend all military and economic power balances worldwide. The scientist carefully chose his words as he continued. "With the base they have established on the moon, China will gain a strategic position from which they can direct all military operations on Earth. They will be able to control satellites using electromagnetic waves, and they could even disable GPS signals. This means China will become the world's greatest military power. If they complete this project, we could become completely dependent, not only economically, but militarily as well." U.S. intelligence units quickly moved to fully grasp the seriousness of this plan. They began to gather all available data on China's lunar base and started identifying potential vulnerabilities in the base. However, time was rapidly passing, and China had heightened all security measures regarding its lunar base. Although the base on the moon was known to nearly all of humanity, the depth of its operations remained a mystery. In light of this new information, the United States began planning a series of strategic moves to counter China's growing dominance in space. The initial plan was to organize sabotage operations targeting China's energy reactor and use all military and technological capabilities to halt the project from the very beginning. However, such an action could lead to direct military conflict, with China raising the risk of a global war. At the White House, all security and military officials began searching for a strategic solution. The steps to be taken against China's lunar superiority would be decisive, not only for the future of the United States, but for the future of the entire world. At this point, the question of what China could do with such immense power weighed heavily on the minds of all officials. A covert operation was launched. A team of elite astronauts was tasked with infiltrating China's lunar base and gathering any intelligence that could stop the project. However, this mission would be both strategically significant and extremely dangerous. The secrets to be uncovered were hidden not only on the surface of the moon, but also within its depths. By the end of 2029, China's lunar base and the threats it posed had become the most critical issue on Earth. The United States clearly saw that China aimed to control global power alone. If China could fully activate this technology, it would mean a complete reshaping of the power structure worldwide. The White House decided to take bold action to prevent China from completing its lunar project. The president called an emergency meeting with all intelligence and military officials. Pentagon leaders, CIA and NSA analysts, and other experts were tasked with making a critical decision for the future of the world. From the moon, China could not only influence communication in space, but also affect satellite networks on Earth. This would paralyze military, economic, and civilian infrastructures across every country on the planet. The focus of the meeting was to ensure that everything was under control before China could fully deploy this technology. The goal was to eliminate any advantage China had in its lunar operations. However, this was a risky and complex situation. China was quickly gaining power in space, and its lunar base was not just for scientific research, but was also built to establish strategic dominance. The U.S. had to prevent China from possessing this technology without resorting to direct military conflict. A multinational team consisting of Pentagon, NASA, Space Force, and special military units was formed. The team's objective was to infiltrate China's lunar base and disrupt their operations. However, this mission had to be kept secret and would require great precision. Everything had to be done quietly and with a specific strategy because China had high-level security measures around its base. China was aware that it could be attacked at any moment, and as such, the base was surrounded by advanced radars, drones, and robotic security systems. The American team would land quietly on the moon and attempt to secretly reach a location near the base. The NASA astronauts, along with experts and military personnel, needed to stay in constant communication with Earth and avoid being detected. This mission would be like a spy operation. The goal was to gather any information on the base, expose China's secret projects, and sabotage them if possible. Reports about China's lunar base indicated that the radars and electromagnetic signal detection systems placed there had high accuracy. The U.S. had to act before China began using this technology to its advantage. At the same time, careful planning was needed to overcome China's security protocols around the base. This mission was both a military and scientific endeavor of critical importance. Successfully completing the mission would not only secure the safety of the United States, but also preserve global power balances. However, the team members knew just how difficult and dangerous this mission would be. China was not just building a scientific outpost on the moon, it was also pursuing global domination. The American team was taking this risk to stop China's plans. The leader of the operation was chosen first, General Lisa Hargrave, an experienced astronaut who had been part of space exploration projects for years. General Hargrave was known for her leadership skills and significant experience in space missions. She was also well regarded for her ability to ensure the safety of her team, and devise the strategies needed to successfully complete their tasks. The rest of the team consisted of highly skilled individuals from military and engineering backgrounds. As the mission preparation continued, the White House made a series of critical decisions. To bypass China's security measures, a special electromagnetic device was planned for use. This device had the ability to temporarily disable China's radar and other security systems. However, the success of this device relied entirely on a team that had successfully infiltrated China's systems. After landing on the moon, the team managed to approach the base within a few hours. In the moon's quiet and desolate environment, they moved cautiously toward the base. Everything had to go perfectly. However, at that very moment, an unexpected situation arose. China had unexpectedly detected the team's activities. The security measures were activated, and the positions of the American team members became immediately detectable. China's advanced radar systems pinpointed the team's location. Soon after, robotic security systems were deployed. Unmanned vehicles and high-tech security robots on the moon's surface were programmed to detect any unauthorized movement. Instantly, the team realized that they had been detected before reaching the base. Communication systems were temporarily disrupted by China's strong electromagnetic signals. They had lost contact with Earth. The team was forced to retreat. This failure in the mission turned the entire plan upside down. As the team members tried to withdraw without making the slightest error, China's security measures escalated to even more serious levels. The White House was deeply concerned when no reports came through from the team. China had successfully implemented all of its security measures for the lunar base and repelled any attempts at interference. The American team's failure to complete the operation reinforced China's power on the moon. In the wake of this failure, America had to develop a more comprehensive strategy. They searched for alternative ways to block China's technology. This was no longer just a military operation. It had become a global struggle to preserve the world order. The setbacks faced by the American team, along with their forced retreat, disrupted all the original plans. China's advanced security systems had unexpectedly thwarted the operation, and the journey had turned into a path that would reshape the global power dynamics. The team, after a long period of silence, was anxious because they could not send any information back to Earth. While the White House awaited their reports, the situation was growing increasingly critical. China's superiority on the moon continued to pose a threat to American interests and global security. America began reconsidering the operation and searching for new ways to infiltrate China's base. However, world governments and intelligence agencies struggled to fully grasp how to prevent China from advancing so far into space. With the technology established on the moon, China could affect not only its own country, but the strategic powers of the entire world. Despite this, America's hope was not completely lost. Many scientists were working on alternative methods to gather more information about China's lunar base. The world could not allow a single country to control the full extent of this technology's power. As China's security measures grew stronger by the day, developing a new strategy to prevent this critical project from advancing had become an even greater necessity. This time, American leaders decided on a different approach. Instead of directly engaging in military intervention, they would adopt a more subtle and intelligent plan to gather deeper insights into China's lunar base. A direct attack would likely provoke China to develop a massive retaliatory strategy against the entire world. Thus, an alternative solution was proposed: a spy operation. America decided to send an elite team of astronauts and military operators who would infiltrate the lunar base. But this mission would not just require physical infiltration, it would demand strategy and intelligence. The goal was to obtain detailed data about China's lunar operations, but this would require an even more careful and cunning approach. The new team was completely different from the previous one. The failure of the earlier team had prompted them to revise their entire plan. This time, the goal was to reach the base without being detected by China's radar or security systems. The team could not return without uncovering the vulnerabilities in China's defenses and fully understanding the power China held on the moon. As the operation began, the leader chosen for the mission was General Ethan Carter, an expert in advanced technology systems who had never been to the moon before. Carter was a meticulous and strategic thinker, known for his ability to remain calm under pressure during crises. He had trained his entire team to bypass China's security systems and sabotage the base. Furthermore, a set of new technologies was to be used for the first time during this mission. Nanorobots designed to move stealthily in space and special devices to mask electromagnetic signals. The journey to the lunar base was critical, both for the team and for the world. Many experts believed the chances of success were low, as China had protected its military and civilian technologies so extensively that even a brief mistake could jeopardize the entire operation. But Carter had the knowledge and strategy to overcome these challenges. On the designated launch day, the team was quietly sent into space. Every move had to be perfectly timed and executed with utmost secrecy. Upon arriving on the moon, the base appeared quite distant. But as they moved closer, the American team realized just how thoroughly China had fortified its security measures. The first major obstacle arose when they encountered robotic security systems on the moon's surface. The team noticed unmanned vehicles and surveillance cameras placed around the base. However, this time a different strategy was in play. Nano-robots were deployed to conceal the team's movements. These tiny devices tracked the team's every move, ensuring they remained undetected. However, as they advanced, the team struggled to bypass China's radar systems. A massive security wall was quickly erected, with China's radar attempting to pinpoint their location. The nanorobots temporarily blocked these signals, but if the signal jamming devices were somehow disabled, the team would be immediately detected. As they stealthily continued, one of China's most powerful radar systems unexpectedly detected the team. The team was forced to retreat. This time, however, they had no time to communicate, and robotic security systems began to track them across the dark lunar surface. Soon after, communication was lost, and this could have been a critical mistake for the team. The White House panicked when they received the report with no signals from the team. They had been detected too quickly by China's lunar superiority to pose a real challenge. Now the entire world awaited to see how America would respond to China's immense power on the moon. By 2035, everything had changed on Earth. China's lunar base and the global power it derived from it had reached unimaginable levels. America and other major world powers had made every effort to prevent China from gaining such technological dominance, but all attempts had failed. China, through its advanced electromagnetic systems and control mechanisms, had gained a massive, strategic advantage not only in space but also on Earth. America's last hope for halting China's advancement, secret espionage missions and infiltration attempts, had been entirely unsuccessful. Teams attempting to reach the moon had been detected and forced to retreat. China had planned every step in space carefully, and its most advanced technologies were still operational on the moon. The Chinese government, having established its dominance, was now laying the foundations of what it called the New World Order. The White House, unable to prevent China from carrying out this technological revolution and securing global strategic and military supremacy, was forced to retreat. The consequences of this shift in global power soon became clear as the results of these events reached the desks of world leaders. The presidential cabinet had to accept that they could not challenge China's power on the moon, and America was left with no choice but to adopt a diplomatic withdrawal strategy. China's limitless energy source obtained from its moon reactor, and its control over global satellite systems marked the beginning of a new era in international relations. With the power gained from the moon, Beijing took control of the world's communication network. American military satellites were disabled, global GPS systems fell under China's control, and international communications began to operate according to the Chinese government's directives. China used this newfound supremacy so quickly that before other world nations could take any preventive measures, Beijing had already started to dominate global communication networks. The Chinese government could now instantly receive signals from all corners of the world and redirect them as it pleased. Other countries soon realized they were powerless against this technological revolution and the global balance of power had shifted entirely. China, with its advanced military and space technologies, now held absolute control over the world. In major cities worldwide, communication lines were disrupted by China's powerful signals. Leaders across the globe were now forced to receive directives from Beijing. Thanks to China's satellite system, all communication networks, military operations, economic information, and diplomatic relations were under Beijing's control. China had become not only a military power but also a communication power, dominating the entire world. The White House, unable to accept the situation, found itself in turmoil, as did other countries around the globe. International trade, military strategies, and diplomatic relations were now shaped entirely by the rules set by Beijing. China's global leadership was secured without challenge, with a secure network in place. China's cybersecurity experts had fully taken control of global communication systems. No state, military, or company could act independently by defying China's systems. The moon base was no longer just a scientific discovery, but a symbol of global power acquisition. China's leader, President Liu Jin, issued a declaration to presidents and prime ministers around the world, announcing the establishment of the New World Order. The declaration read, "Welcome to the New World Order. We now govern. The control of all technological networks, military strategies, and trade routes is in our hands. Those who cooperate with us will be secure in this new era. Those who oppose us are only those who seek to disrupt the functioning of this system." This declaration reverberated worldwide, and many countries had no choice but to submit to China. NATO, the United Nations, and other international organizations had no alternative but to accept Beijing's leadership. The foundation of this new order had been established through the moon base and the limitless energy it provided. The world was now being shaped by China's technological and military supremacy. The United States struggled to accept this new reality. White House officials were desperately seeking ways to regain their country's former strength, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. China's New World Order had risen as a dominant power in every field, and no country seemed capable of confronting this power alone. China had become stronger with every step in space and on Earth, establishing absolute control over the world. During a meeting at the White House, Vice President Jacob Miller expressed his thoughts on China's dominance over the moon and its global supremacy. "We now have to fight not just with military strength, but with our communication and technological superiority. If we want to disrupt this new order, we need a much larger strategy to rebalance global power. But we must never forget one thing. China, with the power from the moon, holds control over the Earth and won't let go of it." China's supremacy on the moon was not just a military victory, but a revolution that would alter all political, economic, and social structures on Earth. Under Beijing's leadership, the world was entering a new era, one where the old balance of power had completely collapsed.